let us move to the Sugar Bowl, Ross, where they have played this game before, and both defenses were booty cheeks except for the early part of the fourth quarter for Georgia's defense.
Yeah, it was. I was at that game, and it was. I don't know that I've ever been at a game where each team scored on every single possession until early in the fourth quarter. So three, scored. I mean, it was pretty wild. It was like watching kind of reminded me of just like watching a tennis match, right? Go back and forth, and you're waiting for somebody to break the serve, and Georgia finally did that with about 10 or 11 minutes maybe to go in the game. I'm trying to remember. Ole Miss punted late in the third quarter. Ole Miss
in the fourth quarter. Yeah,
in the fourth quarter. Yeah, and then Georgia scored. Of course, Georgia scored on both. Georgia scored in every possession in the game. It was remarkable. I think Georgia kicked a couple field goals early in the game, and that's why they were down, I want to say. But Ole Miss scored a touchdown on their first six possessions. I mean, it was crazy. First five possessions.
Yeah.
So
Ole Miss was up
this 10 is going to be
going into the fourth quarter.
It felt like, and they had control of the game. It felt like because they had stopped Georgia enough to force field goals, and so it felt like they were sort of in control of the game. And then so quickly, as soon as Georgia got that stop in the fourth quarter, they ran down the field, and then they stopped them the next possession as well. You just felt the momentum too in that stadium just completely changed during that. And afterward, Lane Kiffin, I remember him talking about, who, of course, absent Lane Kiffin here, maybe absent Lane Kiffin. He certainly won't be coaching in the game. The question is here, actually, people are asking, will Lane make the hour drive or the 15-minute helicopter flight from Baton Rouge to New Orleans?
That's a bad idea.
I've heard he's been advised by people, do not come to the game, but when has Lane listened to anyway? So
that's a really bad idea.
Who knows?
And
Lane's just going on Game Time and buying a ticket. He's going to buy a front row ticket and just position.
A lot of security. A lot of security needed.
Yeah, I don't know if Lane will be in the crowd, Andy, unless Lane's bringing a Secret Service level of fortification with him.
If he's going to be here, he'll be in a suite, tucked away in a suite somewhere.
What's interesting to me is that we haven't yet, we all saw the Tulane win for Ole Miss in the playoff. Everybody got comfortable with Pete Golding. But a lot of things didn't happen in that game, like situational football, right? There was no chess match really involved. They were up 14-0 before you could blink in that game. Things felt automatic. There weren't a lot of confabs. They talked about this after the game. Because things were so one-sided, there wasn't a lot of executive decision-making. There was a little bit for Pete Golding as head coach. But if you think about the pace and flow of the way that first Georgia game went, that's very much a Lane Kiffin signature game, win or lose. I'm predicting a Georgia win because I predicted Georgia to win the national championship here. I just don't know if it's going to go quite like that this time. One, the defenses have had time to adjust to what they saw in the first game, right? The second matchup's always different, but this is just going to be a different decision-making Ole Miss team, I think, than some of the moments that you saw and the pure aggression that they employed, especially in the third and fourth quarter of that first game against Georgia. I don't think Golding's going to do that.
Yeah, and I'm writing a little bit about this today for Media Day, is that you don't have Lane Kiffin, right? But you have 6 of his assistants that have already signed deals to coach at a school in this state, in Ole Miss's chief rival, which is one of the more unusual and just bizarre things ever. And there's a lot of discussion here from the Ole Miss people I've already heard in the day and a half here about just how that will pan out, right? Like how this is working when you have half of the coaching staff that's on the way out and they are controlling sort of the offensive game plan. Just a lot of questions, right? And just a whole unusual situation that Ole Miss finds itself in. But you do wonder, Godfrey, how that will impact, or will it impact the team in these executive decisions that you referred to?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before with Michigan, right? We've seen what kind of chopping the head off does, although it's going to be a very, very different type of experience. One, because of the style of play, and two, because of the situation. It's not like Lane Kiffin's, parked back at his house or the team hotel, still talking to these assistant coaches. He apparently is talking. If you watch the Texas Bowl broadcast, he's in constant contact with the guys that he's bringing to LSU, but he's not really he's not keeping a dialogue with Pete Golding or giving advice on how to prepare for Georgia. I'm genuinely curious what he thinks. And I haven't been genuinely curious what Lane Kiffin thinks about anything in a while because we've suffered such fatigue. But what kind of product does he want to see Ole Miss put out on the field? I'm sure he would love to have his assistants down there and get ready, but I just would assume that his ego would love his sort of headless Ole Miss team to continue this far into the bracket. I don't know if he's going to be cheering for him though.
Well, it's interesting because you question what the ego wants. Does the ego want the team he put together to win the thing, or does the ego want they can't do it without him? I hope it's the first.
Exactly.
I really do. And it's interesting.
And something else, Andy, to keep in mind is the portal opens Friday. And I would imagine, as we often see, a former coach, wants to go look back and potentially take some players from his former team.
Yeah.
And so that's going on too. That's been going on too, which let's just say the Ole Miss people are none too happy about that situation. And again, you're talking about 5 assistants still coaching a team that them and potentially their former coach are trying to poach and take with them eventually.
Coincidentally, we got to talk about Kejuan Lacey because Kejuan Lacey, the Ole Miss running back, we have an availability report. He was listed as probable. Remember, he bruised his shoulder in the Tulane game, so that's a big one. He needs to be able to play and be able to play at maximum capacity for Ole Miss to win this game because look, Georgia has been basically since the fourth quarter of that Ole Miss game, they've been firing on pretty much all cylinders. The offense kind of bogged down in the Georgia Tech game when Drew Bobo, the center, went out. But once they had their second center, Malachi, I'm blanking on his last name, but he had a full week of practice and all of a sudden he was fine. So I think this is interesting. And the executive decision making, Godfrey, that you brought up fascinates me because I'll take you back. Because Kirby Smart, the other coach in this game, we view as one of the best coaches in the sport universally, as a great on-field coach, a great recruiting coach, a great motivator, great everything. He was not a great on-field coach always.
No.
He had to grow into that. Let's not forget like the fake punt in the SEC championship game in 2018. Some decisions that were made in the national title game the year before that they lost in overtime, where they were dominating through the first half. And obviously Tua comes in and that changed the math on everything. But Kirby grew into a great on-field coach. Like, I'll never forget the timeout against Ohio State in the Peach Bowl when they're about to run the fake punt. Like, he has gotten so much better as an on-field coach. And the reason I bring this up is because Pete Golding has 1 game of head coaching experience under his belt. Right. And as Godfrey pointed out, did not have to make a lot of high leverage decisions. So that's an advantage for Georgia. And it is nothing against Pete Golding. Kirby Smart, who we view as one of the greatest ever, struggled with this at first and then grew into it.
Well, Pete was literally his replacement, right? Or am I missing a DC?
Wasn't Tosh Lapoy?
Yeah, okay,
no,
right.
Jeremy Pruitt until he got the Tennessee job, then Lapoy, then Golding.
No, okay. Not the direct replacement, but he had, for a time, the Alabama DC job was the catbird seat to become a head coach. And then Pete's path was a little bit different, and I think he incurred the wrath of a changing game, and more points were scored against Alabama, and he wasn't considered to be as coveted as Kirby, but they have a ton of similarities. It's just that, man, look, if we set this premise up, and we've barely kind of talked about the football of this game because it's sort of impossible to. If you set this premise up, if you were writing a fictional television show about college football, this would never make it out of the writer's room. Okay? No. Until 30 days ago, this would have been considered absolutely, it was stupid, honestly. Like this is improbable. So, and yet you have this situation where, there's just something almost, there's no way for us to project or prognosticate what's going to happen when all of your offensive staff, and look, let's make no mistake, this is an offensive football team. Ole Miss has had some defensive moments. This was built for Lane Kiffin by Lane Kiffin. Okay. Your entire offensive staff, the second they're done with practice for the last, 20 odd days, they're getting on the phone to do LSU staff meetings and to, recruit players. And like, we've never seen anything like this. And what kind of scares me a little bit, if there's a wonky result in this game, or if it's just a Georgia blowout, this is catnip for conspiracy theorists.
Right. Yes. And remember last Monday, Lane called that offensive staff back for, I think, like a day or two to go back to Baton Rouge. Ole Miss practice, they had like a walkthrough. The staff missed it. They missed all meetings that day. It's just a really weird spot. And I think it would shock a lot of people if Ole Miss won this game, even Ole Miss people, because of everything that's happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. I haven't talked to a single person around Oxford who is confident about this game.
Think about which unit of the four offenses and defenses in this game, which unit has been the best since the last time they played. It has been the Georgia defense. The Georgia defense goes into, because remember, they go to Starkville, and Mississippi State had taken Tennessee to overtime. They'd taken Texas to overtime. They shut the Bulldogs down.
And scored a lot of points.
35. Yeah. They went 35-10 against Texas. The Georgia Tech game, the defense had to save them because the offense was not playing well. And then -3 rushing yards allowed against Alabama in the SEC championship. This defense is playing as well as it can. And Glenn Schumann, by the way, who normally would have gotten a head coaching job in this kind of cycle, didn't. And his full focus has been on shutting down this offense, because he probably was working on Ole Miss offense when the bracket came out.
Hey, points per drive, Georgia's terrifying. This is why I picked them to win the national championship. Andy, you talk about that Mississippi State game. That was weak compared to what they put together after that. Mississippi State broke 21, and no one else has done it since. I mean, they played Charlotte in there, but points allowed 10-3, 9-7 since that Mississippi State game. This is not great for Ole Miss.
And Georgia's offense is hitting at the right time too. Like I said, the Georgia Tech game is an aberration because the center went down. And I know I'm Mr. O-line guy, but there are only two players who touch the ball on every play. One's a quarterback, one's a center. You lose your center, weird things can happen. They fixed that very quickly. Drew Bobo is still out, by the way. But they have been so good on offense. Gunnar Stockton has been awesome since that Texas game.
The Texas game alone on offense, I mean, Ole Miss's defense has been opportune at times this season, but I mean, if you need a fifth or sixth reason to pick the Bulldogs in this game, it is that body of work that they put out against Texas, because they saw a talented, albeit flawed defense in Texas, Andy, with NFL talent, and they were able to get creative in a way that we haven't seen I mean, as I scan back through the schedule, it's probably the most creative I've seen the Georgia offense this season, with the exception of maybe some forced big plays against Tennessee, where they kind of had to get the ball downfield to keep serve. This is as complete a team coming out of the SEC as you could ask for at this point in the season.
And fourth down decision making by Kirby Smart, play calling by Mike Bobo in that Texas game was on point. It was different than what we've seen from that duo in the past. They seem like they understand, as good as their defense has been playing, this era of college football is not designed for defensive dominance. So you've got to take some of those chances. And I thought Bobo really called a great game against Texas. And I saw Kirby, to Chris Lowe, my coworker at On 3, Kirby, did the whole, hey, look, guys, I know you don't like Mike Bobo. Get over it. I love Mike Bobo. And he's been awesome.
He's taken a lot of flack, hasn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's actually on the back of the driver's license in Georgia is run the ball Bobo. So I mean, this is, Kirby can get over that too. This is he knew what he was doing when he brought Mike back into the program. I mean, I'm not defending the idiot in the stands, but I kind of am. Mike also earned that reputation over the course of many seasons in Georgia. So
listen, you throw the ball 4 times against South Carolina inside the 5-yard line, and all of a sudden, you build 1,000 bridges and never mind.